For centuries, there's been this one question that just keeps popping up. It's a question that has challenged some of the greatest minds in every single generation. It's all about fairness, about justice, and really about how we've built our societies. And today, we're going to pull on that one thread and see where it leads.
And this is the question right here. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But wow, is it complicated to answer. What we're going to do today is explore this massive challenge by following the intellectual breadcrumbs left behind by three brilliant, and I mean really different thinkers.
So think of this as a journey through time. We're going to see how an economist, a revolutionary philosopher, and a totally mysterious coder all wrestled with this exact same problem. Our trip takes us from the Scottish Enlightenment through the smoke and steel of the Industrial Revolution and lands us right at the birth of the internet. We've got Adam Smith, Karl Marx, and the enigma himself, Satoshi Nakamoto. Three completely different eras, three different worlds, but they were all chasing an answer to that very same question. So what connects these three? Well, it's this idea right here, humanism. At their very core, all three of them were humanists. They all started from this one fundamental belief that every single person has worth and deserves dignity. And they looked out at the world and saw systems, economic and social systems, that were just crushing that principle. And they wanted to know why. All right, let's start at the beginning with our first thinker on the scene, Adam Smith. Now, we usually hear about him as the father of capitalism, right? But he was also one of its earliest and, believe it or not, sharpest critics. He was really the first to properly diagnose the disease of systemic inequality. And this quote, it just flips the whole idea of national wealth on its head. I mean, think about it. In an age of kings and empires, Smith comes along and says, hey, a country's real wealth isn't the pile of gold in the king's basement, it's how well its ordinary people are doing. That was a seriously radical thing to say back then. So, Smith asked, how did things get so unequal? And he pointed his finger right at the source. He saw that all this incredible wealth held by European powers was stuck in the hands of a tiny group of elites. And he was clear. This wealth wasn't earned through fair business. Nope, it was built on the brutal exploitation of colonies. He was basically calling out the entire economic system of his time as fundamentally unfair. Now let's jump forward about a century. Karl Marx enters the picture. And if Adam Smith was the one who diagnosed the symptoms, you could say Marx was the one who performed the autopsy on the entire system. He wanted to take the whole machine apart to see how it was producing so much inequality. This line right here cuts straight to the heart of what he found. For Marx, history wasn't really about kings and queens or big battles. He said the real story, the one playing out underneath all of that, was a constant economic fight between classes, the haves and the have-nots. Marx's big idea was that inequality wasn't just some unfortunate bug in capitalism. He argued it was a feature. The Industrial Revolution created this new, powerful class, the bourgeoisie, the people who owned the factories and machines. And, he argued, the system was basically designed to squeeze as much value as possible from the people doing the work. The key takeaway? For Marx, it wasn't about a few greedy people. The problem was the system itself was built to be unequal. Okay, let's hit the fast-forward button and come all the way to our time. Right after the massive 2008 financial crisis, this mysterious figure, Satoshi Nakamoto, shows up with a totally new kind of answer. It wasn't a book or an essay, it was a piece of code, a technological solution to this age-old human problem.
This sentence, right from the original Bitcoin whitepaper, is everything. Satoshi's whole vision was to cut out the middlemen, the giant banks and financial firms that held all the power and made all the rules. The idea was to build a financial system for the people, one that nobody could control. And when you think about it, this was a deeply humanist goal. Bitcoin wasn't just about creating some new digital money. It was literally engineered to be a tool to rebalance the scales of power, to challenge the centralized institutions that were driving so much economic inequality. But then, well, reality came knocking. The beautiful ideal of Bitcoin as this great equalizer ran headfirst into the very system it was trying to fix. The big money and capital it wanted to decentralize, well, they just bought into it. It got co-opted, turning a revolutionary tool into just another asset for speculation. For some, it ended up concentrating wealth even more. The original mission, sadly, was left unfinished. And it's right here, at this point where Bitcoin's original vision kind of stalled out, that our story takes its next turn. This is where a new project, called MicroBitcoin, steps into the conversation trying to offer a direct response to this long history.
The whole idea behind it is to pick up that torch that Satoshi lit. This project is basically an attempt to take that original powerful humanist idea behind Bitcoin and give it another shot, learning from what went wrong and getting back to that core promise of true decentralization.
So how do they plan to do that? Well, the key idea here is that the answer isn't just about creating a new coin or a new currency, it's about building a whole new foundation for the internet itself.
So why should you care? Why does any of this matter? Because this is a real plan to tackle the same kinds of problems Smith and Marx saw, but in our digital world. It's about pushing back against the incredible inequality created by today's centralized internet. It's about building a system that gives everyone a fair shot, and it connects this abstract technology, blockchain, directly back to that original humanist goal, making sure every individual's dignity and value are respected.
So as you can see, this isn't really the start of a new story at all. It's just the next chapter in a very, very old one. That intellectual and moral journey that started with thinkers like Adam Smith got a new perspective from Karl Marx and was given a modern technological twist by Satoshi Nakamoto. Well, that journey is still going.
Which leaves us with this final, massive question. We've seen philosophies and economic theories try to solve this problem. We saw a powerful technological attempt to get sidetracked, but what happens if we put them together? Can technology, when it's consciously guided by that core principle of humanism, finally be the tool that breaks this centuries-old cycle of inequality? Well, that's the question this next chapter is trying to answer.